What's up, good people? And we are here. Welcome to Live at Lunch. I think I'll keep calling it this. Live at Lunch. Kind of rolls off the tongue. Sounds pretty good. You can get rid of that. And I got my sound on. There we go. We don't want no reverb. But what's up? It's lunchtime. We'll talk about the birds in the NFL for a few minutes. You will be in and out and able to clock back in because I will be done before 1. This is going to be quick, to the point. We'll roll for about 30 minutes. So that should give you plenty of time to wash your hands and get it back together and get it going. Michael Bird, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you joining me for this lunch. I think normally I would be doing this on Facebook Live as well. But I think next week I'm going to. I know there's a way where I can do YouTube Live and Facebook Live at the same time, but I haven't quite figured that out yet. I know it's not that difficult. I just haven't taken the time to do it. So I'm gonna do that next week because I always get a lot of good feedback on Facebook. So, but Mike, I appreciate you joining me, bro. For real. So we got some things. We saw the playoffs, the divisional round this last weekend, yesterday, and on Saturday. Tampa Bay and Detroit was a better game than anybody would have thought. I thought Detroit was just going to walk all over Tampa Bay. So I got to give Tampa Bay some credit, man. Baker Mayfield credit. Baker Mayfield kind of came into his own. He was better than advertised, better than expected, and he made it a game. I thought at a couple of times in that game that Detroit was going to just run away from it and run away with it, but they just could not. Tampa Bay did hang around for a bit, and finally at the end, Gibbs and hey man, and credit to Goff too. Jared Goff balled, didn't make the big mistake, and just kept it going, man. So, congrats to him. That was a good job by him. And yeah, Mike, I'm waiting for the birds to announce their stuff too. I had heard just a couple minutes ago that Brian Johnson is officially out. I haven't heard why or what gives them that thinking, but we knew that was coming. The Sean Desai thing we knew was coming. That is not a big deal. We knew that was coming. So to me, that wasn't anything, any new news. So maybe something will pop up while we're on the air at lunchtime, but I don't know. But there hasn't been anything that's been like groundbreaking yet. So, but yeah, so it is what it is. So I haven't heard anything. I got on my other computer over here. I got NFL.com loaded up. So if there's any news, I'm gonna keep refreshing it to see if anything happens. But everybody's talking about the games from yesterday. What's going on Facebook? I finally got my Facebook Live feed on, so I'm expecting some people to chime in pretty in the next few minutes. Trisha Likens, what's going on? I see you. I see you, homie. I appreciate you. Ricky Gordon, I see you, frat. Always throw up that A5 till I die because it's ice cold up here in South Jersey. Believe that. It was 14 degrees this morning, and now it has risen to a balmy 33. Alan Benson, back at you, frat. I see you. Definitely ice cold up in South Jersey, man. So, interview around Rivers, like Ron Rivera? Is that who you mean, Ron Rivera? Who is Rivers? Ron Rivera. Carl Wright, what's going on, man? I'm not personally crazy about Ron Rivera, but he is an old school coach, and there is something to be. There is an advantage to having like an old school type coach on your roster. However, having anytime you have a coach like Ron Rivera that has as much experience as he has as a head coach, you're always worried that that's going to overshadow your current head coach. So does is Ron Rivera going to overshadow Nick Sirianni? And it's a weird thing because Nick Sirianni is still a young coach, but he's been to a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So he's got that type of gravitas too. However, and I never thought this would come into play until now, just until recent events. Some of Nick Sirianni's antics, people will look at him and judge it as kind of immature. And up here in the Philadelphia area, there have been more than one person on more than one occasion was like, listen, you got to tone that down. If you were a player, maybe yes, but you're a coach, so you got to tone that down. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I understand because you want certain behavior from the guy at the top. And you had that situation on the sideline where whatever it was he did, he was standing next to Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts he was about to put his hand up and say something and Jalen Hurts grabbed his hand and kind of gave him that look like, come on, man. Don't do that. So there is a level of immaturity is not the right word. Trying to look for a different adjective. It's not that he's immature. He still has like a player's, attitude towards the fans sometimes where he goes and he's jaw-jacking back and forth. As a head coach, not really much good can come from that, especially if you're on the other end of it. It's great if you're winning, but, it's been a lot of stuff with the fans, and we'll get into that a little bit. I meant to mark that down on my notes. You know what? Let's get into it right now. Did anybody see the stuff with CeeDee Lamb's mom? That's what I wanted to get into. What's up, Adrian? What's up, William? Everybody on Facebook, if you can check me out on YouTube, I would appreciate it, or just subscribe. My goal is to get to 2,000 subscribers by the Super Bowl, so I'm working at it. But yeah, did anybody see what happened with CeeDee Lamb's mom jumping on Twitter and Dak Prescott's brother? Listen, anytime family members, parents, whatever the situation is, siblings, anytime they get on Facebook, it is never a good look on the player. Never a good look on the player. Now, the one situation that ended well, if you look back, 3 years ago now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, that last year that OBJ was in Cleveland, and his dad took to Twitter or Facebook or whoever it was, but his dad went to the next step, and he started putting game footage. He screen recorded the all 22 tape from the NFL website, and he started walking through plays on social media and was like, yep, my son was open on this play. He was open right here. He started getting detailed like that, but still, that's a bad look because ultimately you cannot avoid social media now. You just can't. As much as we, as the old school and the OG players look at it because my thing is social media now in the game, in all of the games, NFL, NBA, MLB, hockey, all of it. It is a self-imposed distraction because now all of these players want to run back and get on the podcast real quick, and that's fine. But when you got these guys, we had 2 incidents during the year where players were responding to social media and stuff like that during the game, like at halftime. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Well, one time that was Kenny Gainwell, and the other time the whole social media thing was about A.J. Brown, but that wasn't during a game. But my point is all of these guys are running back to social media. So back in my day, we just didn't read the paper. And you could avoid all of that and I've said this before, back in my day, all of the journalists and the beat writers still had to come in the locker room. But that's where it started and ended. So if somebody says something about you, you saw them face to face. Or if someone wrote something about you, you knew exactly who they were, you knew exactly who they wrote for, and you can address them personally. So back then, the journalists had the guts because they had to see you face to face, especially if they were a beat reporter. And those were the only people that could get in-depth information because they could get a feel for the locker room. They could kind of test the temperature of the room, and based on what they saw on the field. Sometimes it ended good, sometimes it ended bad. But them people still had to come in there, and all of that smack that they was writing about a particular player, good or bad, they had to see that dude face to face. So that was like a built-in checks and balances. Now you don't have that no more. And what makes it worse is now all the parents, like I said, OBJ's dad, you saw what was happening, was that last year with Jackson Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes' little brother. Now you got CeeDee Lamb's mother talking about he need to get up out of there and this, that, and the other. And it's like, even if she is correct, there's going to be a lot of people that agree with her, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't. And the people that don't are going to let you know and not so many nice words. That's the problem. Because now CeeDee Lamb has got to be looking at who's saying what about his mom. That's a problem. Now, luckily, all of this stuff didn't come out during the season, this, that, and the other. I don't know if he wants to come back or not. But now that's another thing that he has to deal with. Maybe he didn't want to answer that question publicly. Because now every time somebody see him, guess what they're going to ask? Now that is going to lead into his negotiations and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a slippery slope right now because so many people can say whatever they want with impunity and you don't have to do anything about it. William Clamper is asking, what about bringing Frank Reich back as offensive coordinator? I don't necessarily mind that. I don't necessarily mind that at all. My only prerequisite is whoever you bring in as OC has got to have their own identity. Period. That's the one problem that Brian Johnson didn't have that. Brian Johnson was a step up, but he didn't have no cachet yet. He hadn't been out there enough. So if it was Nick Sirianni's offense, or if Brian Johnson wasn't able to do some of the things that he wanted to do, or even if it's a situation where, like some reports are saying now, Jalen wasn't happy with it, they weren't getting along, who knows? At the end of the day, you got to have enough experience and enough years in the game at your position where people won't mess with you. And if you are going through a rough patch, you still have to have enough experience to go through that rough patch. And people will be confident that you can navigate through it. And I don't think Brian Johnson had that yet. Now, going forward, this is a situation where he took his lumps. Everybody has to take their lumps, player or coach. So now going forward, this is something where you can say, well, I've been through that, so now I know what not to do. That's the benefit of going through these bad situations. If you come out on the other side, whether it's with us or somewhere else, that's something that you can lean back on and say, okay, I'll never do that again. Or whatever the situation is, maybe we find out there's some things that he did want to do, he just couldn't for whatever reason. So this is one of these things where you're not going to find out what the whole situation was until a year later. Because now some other people are going to have to leave. Somebody might be out of a job. It might be in studio work. Then they might decide to tell a story. Or, like everybody else is doing, eventually somebody going to get on a podcast and tell their truth. You see what's happening with RG3 and Jay Gruden. So when you don't have nothing to risk, you'll say what you got to say. So, if somebody's writing about A.J. Brown deleting all the Eagles stuff on his Instagram account, maybe they'll trace. Possibly, but that was much ado about nothing. Because he said as much, and if you remember, he did the same thing last year. And I believe he did the same thing when he was in Tennessee. So, that was a knee-jerk reaction, unfortunately, that went viral. And that's the problem now. Everybody wants to be first with the information. They don't necessarily have to be right. They just want to be first. And a lot of times the wrong information is what gets the clicks and goes viral and all of that kind of stuff. That's a problem. That's a big problem. So the players that can hone it in, it's all right when you have a podcast, but when you start mixing the two and people start calling you on your stuff, some people can handle it and some people can't. Prime example was this whole situation this year with Slay being able to tackle. And out of all the people that he gonna go after, you gonna go after Seth Joyner, a legend in this town, an Eagles Hall of Famer, and you didn't have enough wherewithal to figure out who he was? You said in your comments, and I quote, some guy named Seth Joyner. You play for the Eagles, and you gonna say some guy named Seth Joyner? Bad form on your part, bro. Not to mention, he was right. Our tackling sucks. Your tackling sucked. We went back. We were not doing day one football stuff. And for you to think that it was like you didn't do the minimal amount of homework to figure out who was talking to you. And it made you look silly. And then the performances the following weeks and going into the playoffs just verify what we already knew. You got to take the good with the bad. You got to be able to take criticism, period. And that's the bad thing about it's bad enough with pro players now anyways. I mean, this was the same back when I played as well and before I played. When you reach a certain level, you feel a certain type of way if somebody says something about you because you think your stuff don't stink. That's it in a nutshell. You get to a certain point and you don't like when somebody critiques you or criticizes what you're doing. The hell if they right or not. You just insulted that they had the nerve to say something about you. Well, guess what? As a player, you are supposed to be able to take coaching at every level. I say this all the time, and this applies to pro sports, whether in your business, whatever your profession is. If you're the smartest man in a room, find a new room because you can always learn from somebody else. You can always learn from somebody else. Let me see. Hold on, William. Damn, he didn't know who Seth Joyner is. That's almost as bad as not knowing who Reggie is. Absolutely. Absolutely. He did not know who. Literally, he said some guy named Seth Joyner. And then he doubled down on it by saying, back when he played, they didn't teach y'all the right way to tackle. And I was like, hold on. Because that's when I kind of got into the conversation. Because I was kind of texting back and forth with Seth. And when I put out my video about the subject, I made sure I attached Seth and Slay on that message. And it was like, how you going to tell us back in our day we didn't know how to tackle? We knew how to tackle. We the ones that made all the tackles. We tackled. Y'all making business decisions. There's a difference. And you can tell who's doing what. Very easy to tell. But the fact that you play in this city and you don't know who Seth Joyner is, or you don't understand the power of the gangrene defense, if you think that's just a slogan, you're not doing your homework. You're not going to go to Denver and act like you don't know who John Elway is. So, he kind of put his foot in his mouth. And he kind of lost some cool points in the city. Because people love Slay around here. But after that, it was like, everybody kind of cooled off on him. Rightfully so. So it was, bad move on his part. So we saw that Sean Desai got out of here. No big secret. No big deal. We knew that was coming. Why would Sean Desai stay? Because they basically pulled the rug out from underneath him. Because, in my opinion, we should have kept him and left him alone. But you knew we gave the arched eyebrow when Nick Sirianni hired Matt Patricia. I wasn't particularly crazy about that at all, because if you at that level, why you bringing somebody in to watch me? I don't want to do that. People second guessing you and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if I want to blame the fall of the defense on Sean Desai, because you know what, Sean Desai don't tackle. Now it was some confusion and stuff going on later, but was that Desai? Was that trying to switch to Matt Patricia? Or I don't know what it was. All I know is Sean Desai, as bad as our defense was, we still made it to 10-1. That's what's so weird about this year with the coordinators and the coaches just in general. Who would have thought the best coach we had on staff this year was Michael Clay, special teams? Nobody. We went 10-1, and as much criticism as we have for the defense, going 10-1, we were still putting points on the board, and we were still bitching about the bubble screens and not running the ball enough, and all of that stuff, and it was all legit, but we were still winning, which means whatever we were doing, it was the same situation like Gannon last year. Everybody didn't like Gannon because we wanted the blitz and we need to be more aggressive and blah, blah, blah. The only thing we did was have one of the best defenses in the league. You fast forward to now, and last year we was nitpicking because the defense was so good. This year, the offense was scoring points. We were nitpicking. The defense was sketchy, but we knew it was because of the injuries. We had unprecedented injuries on our defense. In the secondary, then on the defensive line, and then, of course, the linebacker situation. So I don't know what they expected Sean Desai to do. We lost. They gave away Christian Ellis. We lost one of the guys in preseason, one of the backup linebackers that was also a special teamer. Then they bring in Miles Jack. Then he retires and ends up signing with somebody else. Then we got Nicholas Moreau, who we had cut. But when him and Cunningham got together, they were making some things happen. Then later on, we see it was like, okay, now we know probably why they cut Nick Moreau, because he was all over the place. But they were doing something right for a period of time. So is that Desai's fault? So you got to give them, if you're going to put me in here, at least let me fail on my own merit. Don't get rid of me because of what somebody else did. This is me. If you're going to get me, let me make it worth my while. And if I'm going out, I'm going to go out swinging. So that way, it was all me. That way you don't blame it on somebody else where it was, you don't want to do that. And like I said, they pulled the rug from Desai. He did hold Patrick Mahomes to no points in a half of football. We did manage to stop Josh Allen. We did manage to stop Matthew Stafford. All these teams in the playoffs, we did beat them. And guess what? To beat a team, that means you got to prevent them from scoring. They can't score, they can't win. So for all of the criticism of Sean Desai, in my opinion, did we really give him a fair shot? Because it couldn't have been no worse at the end. Would he have called that defense against Seattle? So we'll see. So Matt Patricia's out of here. I don't think he's going to be fired. I think he's just walking away. Sean Desai, we know what that situation was. Brian Johnson, if they haven't done it already, they're going to do it soon enough. So it is what it is. Let me see if let me update. Yep, Sean Desai. Yep, everything is just Desai. So I guess Brian Johnson it's not been official yet. But you already know. Why will he come back? Why will he come back? I see Zach Ertz is going to sign with the Lions. That's interesting. But yeah, I think the dude got hurt. Somebody got hurt yesterday. So good for him. Good for him. Man, listen, Travis Kelce is living his best life right now. he he at the Chiefs game with no shirt on, drinking beer, taking pictures with people with Taylor Swift signs made, all that kind of stuff. I thought it was funny. At least he can make fun of it and have some fun with it. Yeah, William held Miami to 14 points. Yep, you can add that on Sean Desai's resume as well. So they just pulled the rug underneath him. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Um, what's more important, the new offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator? My opinion right now is the defense because defense still wins championships. Although if you watched that game last night, Buffalo had every opportunity to take that game from Kansas City, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Josh Allen was throwing strikes, and then the one time he's got a man wide open in the end zone, he doesn't get enough on the ball because his offensive tackle, Chris Jones, just mauled that dude and pushed him right all the way back. And just that little bump took a little bit off the ball, and he had an open receiver. Yes, he had Stephon Diggs dragging across the middle, but you had a guy wide open. He made the right read and threw the and he just that took a bit off of it. So, yeah, William, I'm defense wins championships. I got faith in Jalen Hurts too. I definitely got faith in Jalen Hurts, but um, we do need a we need an offensive coordinator that's going to hold Jalen Hurts to the fire. So, in my opinion, we need somebody like Eric Bieniemy. We need somebody like an old school coach. Like I'm good with Frank Reich. I don't. I don't want to. I don't want to. One of the young coaches. I don't want to be your friend. We need an old school type coach, a good coach. Don't get that twisted, but we need an old school coach to get the best out of Jalen because Jalen is very. He is what he is. You already know what his personality is, but I just look at his history, how he was coached by his dad at Oklahoma, and that's the type of coach, somebody that's demanding of him. And I don't think Brian Johnson was that guy. Yeah, Frank Wright did fix Carson Wentz or got him better and got Nick. Yeah, you can't forget Nick. People forget, man. We so in love with Nick Foles, and people don't realize um, every season Nick Foles was the starter. He never finished. He never stayed healthy. He never had a complete season as a starter. When he went to the Rams, didn't do it. But he came in at the right time and he was at the right team and everything just worked for us. So, and the one thing Nick Foles will always be able to say is he took Tom Brady's best shot and he countered and knocked him out. Not too many people, not too many quarterbacks can say that. So I know Eli Manning beat Brady, but he didn't get Brady's. We took Brady's best shot, and we came out on top. So, so yeah, Frank Reich, I'm with it. What's up, Trey? I am definitely with it, man. I am definitely with it. I see my boy Trainer Trey is on. Check out Explosive up in Cherry Hill. When I go work out, that's where I go. He'll get you right. But yeah, man, we got we still got some questions to solve. You already know that Sirianni's not going anywhere. A lot of people wanted him fired. Um, Not necessarily me. I was 50-50. If they kept him, I get it. If they fired him, I understood. The reason why I didn't want him fired was because I didn't want to have to start all over. And let him play out his contract. Give him his fourth year. Give him his senior year in the league, and let it. Because now there is no misunderstanding, none. Next year he's coaching for his job. So if it ain't right, you know he's gonna be out. And if it ain't right next year, he might not make it through the year. So he understands he's probably coaching for his job, for his future with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm good with that because there is no misunderstanding. None. And that's the way you want it. So now you already know if he puts it down, can he prove that he can call the offense or whatever's going to happen? Manage to be the CEO of the team, whatever you want to call it. Let him be that dude. Let him make those decisions. And again, let him pass or fail on his own merit. I played for a coach. I played for Kotite. And I've said this before. Kotite wasn't the worst coach in the world. But when it came to X's and O's, he was boosted or torn down by the coaches he had around him. He had a great defense. Offense, not so much. So, Sirianni's in the same boat. So, he's probably going to take extra care to hire who he needs to hire. I'm hearing Denard Wilson for defensive coordinator again. I heard Wink Martindale this morning. I wouldn't mind Wink Martindale. I wouldn't mind Denard Wilson because they should have promoted Denard Wilson in the first place, in my opinion. You had already had somebody that was part of John Gannon's defense that was a good defense. I'm sure he would have added some twists and made some adjustments and made it his own, and we could have been better for it. But he didn't. They passed him up. They went outside the house, outside the family, and Denard Wilson walked. So now he's going to have the opportunity to play, possibly play in the Super Bowl again. And he's not the DC there. So if he were to come back and be the defensive coordinator, that would be a promotion for him. So there's still an opportunity for him to do that. And he still knows most of the people here. Let's just hope most of the people here will still be here when he gets back, if that's the case. So, we still have some good opportunities. If it were up to me, Wink Martindale or Denard Wilson would be my top choices for defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator, I'm going to leave that up in the air. I'm not sure yet. There's a lot of names out there, but again, we got to bring somebody in here that's got the cachet that can get Jalen Hurts together. That's not even the right way to say that. But we gotta have somebody that comes in with an offensive scheme and a structure that Jalen Hurts is confident in. Let me say it like that. Because if it is true that he wasn't getting along or he wasn't in agreement with some of the things that Brian Johnson was doing, we need somebody that he can have confidence in. Because now everybody's saying that Jalen Hurts was freelancing and doing all that stuff in the end. And I'm like, well, Jalen Hurts couldn't have been freelancing the bubble screens and couldn't have been freelancing not running the ball. Throwing the ball 30 yards downfield when all we need was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5. I mean, that could have been him. I don't know. So we'll find out. So we got some things to do. I'm going to assume. Here's what I'm thinking. If we have a defensive coordinator by the end of the week, we have our coordinator. If we don't, my guess would be that they have plans to really go after Denard Wilson. Because why else would you be waiting this long? Because you can't talk to him until he's focused on the playoffs, trying to get back to the Super Bowl. So the longer we wait on making those decisions, that kind of lets you know who they have in mind. So I'm thinking they really want to go after Denard Wilson because Wink Martindale's available now. You can make him an offer if that's who you really want. So the fact that they're not making offers or they haven't made an announcement kind of tells you something. And the one thing I'm learning very quickly, we're about to get up out of here. The one thing I'm learning very quickly, and it's funny to me because now I'm creating content, right? So now I gotta pay attention to who says what, when they said it, and if it was vetted. So a couple days ago, I put out a video that was talking about Nick Sirianni that Diana Rossini had put out. And then 5 minutes after she put it out, she was like, oh, wait a minute. That's not true. They're not in the same place. You're going to have to put it on hold. But her first report, like, it had crazy amount of views. So people was leaning on that like it was gospel. And then 5 minutes later, she was like, logistically, they're not in the same spot right now. They're not in the same physical place. So they're going to push that meeting back. So everybody was like, well, is it true or is it not true? And it's like very interesting looking at all this stuff. That situation, and every time I see a story and it says per source or sources say, nobody can, all this technology we got and all of this instant information, and nobody can put their name on it. Nobody. So just one thing to keep your eye on. So if there's any more information that pops out, we'll let you know. All right. But I'm going to get up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your lunch. And thank you for joining me. And we're going to try to do this at least on Mondays. Maybe a couple other times during the week. Like right at this time, like 12:10, 12:15. So you get enough chance to crack open your lunch, sit down, and pop your phone on or put your headphones on or whatever it is you're going to do. And then we'll be done right about now at 12:50. So you got time to wash up and get it together and get ready to clock back in and keep it moving. All right. I appreciate you joining me. Everybody on Facebook, join me on YouTube. Hit subscribe, please. I'd appreciate it. And next week for sure, I'm going to figure out a way to do the multi-stream so I can do on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So I appreciate you guys watching me, and I will see you